All right, so you ever notice how the game's been changing lately?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like you sit down at your usual game
Uh-huh.
and the whole vibe is different.
Yeah,
There's this new breed of player. They're
absolutely.
coming in from,
Yeah.
these fast-moving
So,
worlds
like, what kind of worlds are we thinking?
like day trading,
Okay.
crypto,
Uh-huh.
sports betting,
Got it. Yeah.
and they bring this whole different energy to the table.
It's palpable. You can just feel it, right?
Yeah, they're not afraid to splash the pot.
No, they're not.
Huge bets,
Huge bets.
crazy
Not the
bluffs.
tops.
Yeah, just tons of action.
Yeah.
And for those of us who've been playing a bit more, let's say,
A
traditionally,
little more methodically, maybe.
yeah, a little more strategically,
Yeah.
it can be a real challenge to adapt.
It is a challenge, but it's also a fascinating one.
It is.
Because what we're seeing at the poker table is really a microcosm of what's happening in the wider business world.
That's a great point.
It's all about speed, agility, and this constant need to adapt to survive.
And to thrive, too, right?
Absolutely to thrive.
So how do we, the more strategic players, navigate this new landscape?
Well, I think there's some really powerful mental models that can give us an edge.
Oh, I like that.
Like razors, as our guest Ed Reeve calls them in his fantastic blog post.
Yeah, sharpen your poker game with razors.
Yeah.
Thin slicing.
That's the one.
Such a great article.
It really is, and Ed's done a fantastic job of connecting the worlds of startups and poker.
He really has.
And, these razors, they're essentially mental shortcuts, principles that help you cut through the complexity.
Yeah, and make better decisions under pressure.
Especially when you're up against these action over patience guys.
Right, and I think this deep dive is all about equipping you, our listener, with these modern razors.
Yeah, giving you the tools to sharpen your strategic thinking.
All right, so let's dive in. Ed outlines a bunch of these razors in his post, but one that I think is super relevant to this whole discussion is iterate or die.
Oh, yeah, that one's a classic.
And it comes straight from the startup world.
It does, and in the startup world, iterate or die is not just a saying, it's a way of life.
It's the reality.
It's right. It's a reality.
Companies have to constantly be adapting,
Constantly refining
refining their product,
their marketing.
their business model,
Yeah, the whole thing.
based on what's working.
And what's not working.
And what's not working exactly.
If they don't iterate, they become obsolete.
They die.
They die.
So how does this translate to the poker table, especially when we're talking about these action players?
Well, these guys often come in with a certain style.
Yeah.
They're aggressive.
Right. They love to bet. They love to raise.
They love to put the pressure on.
But the iterate or die razor suggests that we, as more strategic players, can actually use this to our advantage
How so?
by becoming masters of adaptation.
I see what you're saying.
I need to be constantly collecting data
Okay. I like that. Collecting data.
and their tendencies.
So, like, what specifically?
What are their raising ranges from different positions? How often are they continuation betting on the flop? What kind of bluffing patterns are they showing?
Right. So it's all about pattern recognition.
It is. Every hand we play against them, whether we win or lose, it's a data point.
Yeah. And the key is to adapt faster than they do.
Exactly. Because they might be stuck in their, kind of rigid, aggressive style.
Right. It's like Ed says in the article, you don't win tournaments by playing it safe. You iterate your strategy until you find what works.
Yeah. And so are you consciously trying to analyze your opponent's tendencies as you're playing? Are you actively adjusting your own game based on what you're seeing? Because these action players, they might seem unpredictable on the surface, but a lot of times they fall into these very consistent patterns.
And if you can spot those patterns and adapt.
You're basically iterating your strategy in real time.
Yeah. And they're just kind of stuck in their default mode.
Okay, so iterate or die. That's the first razor.
All right. I like that one. What's next?
The next one Ed talks about is 0 to 1 thinking.
Ooh, that one's interesting.
So what's that all about?
So 0 to 1 thinking is all about going beyond incremental improvement.
Okay.
It's not just about trying to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's about finding completely new and innovative ways to play.
So not just copying what everyone else is doing.
No, it's about thinking outside the box.
So how do we apply that to poker? Because poker's been around for so long, it feels like everything's already been tried.
That's a good point, but 0 to 1 thinking in poker isn't about inventing a new variant of the game.
Right.
It's about challenging those ingrained assumptions we have about how the game is played.
Okay.
It's about asking, what if the conventional wisdom is wrong?
I like that.
Especially against these action players who might not be as attuned to those subtle strategic nuances.
Right, right.
So let's say the generally accepted play against a certain type of aggressive player is X.
Okay.
0 to 1 thinking would be, what if you did the complete opposite?
Oh, So you're saying flip the script.
Yeah, surprise them with something they wouldn't expect.
So if they expect you to fold in a certain spot, you might actually raise.
Exactly, because they're not expecting it.
They're not expecting it.
It's outside their range of outcomes.
Right.
And that's where you can gain a real edge.
It's like catching them off guard.
It is.
So it's about being creative, finding those unique angles.
Absolutely. And as Ed puts it, to dominate the game, you can't just copy others. You have to redefine how the game is played.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Ed talks about fail forward.
Oh, yeah. This is a big one.
And we touched on the idea of learning from experience with iterate or die.
Right.
But what's different about fail forward?
Fail forward is all about changing our relationship with failure.
Okay.
It's about not seeing losses as purely negative,
Right.
but as opportunities to learn and grow.
So when you lose a hand, especially against one of these crazy players, don't just tilt and dismiss it as bad luck.
Exactly. Don't just brush it off.
Take a step back.
Analyze what happened.
Yeah, break it down.
What decisions did you make?
What information did you have?
Were there any tells you missed?
And even if it was just bad luck, there's still something to learn.
There's always something to learn.
Maybe about your opponent's tendencies.
Or about your own decision-making process.
Exactly. As Ed says, and I love this quote, every lost hand is a data point for your next big win.
It's a great way to look at it.
It really is. It takes the sting out of those losses.
And it keeps you focused on the long game.
Exactly. And it reminds me that even those wild plays from these action players, there's often some logic behind them.
Even if it's flawed logic.
Even if it's flawed. Yeah, and understanding that logic starts with analyzing those lost hands.
Exactly. It's about digging deeper, not just moving on to the next hand.
All right, next up we have first principles only.
Back to basics.
Back to basics. So what are the first principles of poker?
The first principles are the fundamental truths of the game,
The things that never change.
no matter who you're playing against.
So what are some examples?
Well, there's positional advantage, the idea that acting later in the hand gives you an edge.
Make sense?
Then there are pot odds,
Yeah.
understanding the math behind calling bets.
Okay.
And of course, hand ranges,
Right.
knowing what hands your opponent is likely to have.
So how does focusing on these first principles help us against these action-heavy players?
Because these guys, they often rely more on aggression and intuition,
Right.
which can work in the short term,
Yeah.
but they might not have a solid grasp of these fundamentals.
I see.
They might overvalue strong hands or make bets that don't make mathematical sense.
So by sticking to those first principles,
You can exploit their mistakes.
you become the disciplined player in the midst of the chaos.
Exactly. You're waiting for those mathematically favorable spots.
While they're just splashing around.
Yeah, letting their emotions get the better of them.
Okay, next up is think different.
Ah, I love this one.
This one seems similar to 0 to 1 thinking, but is it?
They're definitely related, but think different is more about observation. It's about developing a unique perspective.
Seeing things that others miss.
Yeah, those hidden opportunities.
So less about inventing new strategies, more about seeing the game in a new way.
Exactly. It's about honing those observational skills.
Paying attention to the little things.
Yeah, the betting patterns, the body language, the subtle cues.
So how does this help us against these wild action players?
Because even the most chaotic players have tells.
Really?
Oh yeah, there are always patterns.
You just got to find them.
You gotta find them.
So even if they're betting aggressively with a wide range of hands?
There might be tells that reveal their true strength.
I see.
So think different is about becoming a detective at the poker table.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
All right, next we have 10x growth. This sounds like it's about thinking big.
It is. 10x growth is about setting ambitious long-term goals.
Okay.
It's not about winning a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's about aiming for exponential growth.
So how does that apply to poker?
Well, in poker, 10x growth isn't about winning 10 times more in a single session. Right.
It's about having a vision for your development as a player.
Okay.
It's about making consistent, smart decisions.
Even if they don't pay off immediately.
Exactly. It's about building a solid foundation.
So when you're up against these action players who are chasing those big pots,
You stay disciplined.
you stay focused on the long-term goal.
It's like being a long-term investor.
Yeah.
You're not chasing every hot stock.
You're in it for the long haul.
Exactly. You're weathering the storms.
Okay, next up is maverick mindset. Now, this sounds like it's about breaking the rules.
In a way, yes.
So explain that.
Maverick mindset is about challenging the status quo.
Okay.
It's about being willing to go against conventional wisdom.
But not just for the sake of being different.
No, it has to be calculated.
So when does it make sense to embrace this maverick mindset?
When you have a good reason,
Okay.
when you've analyzed the situation,
Yeah.
and you believe that an unconventional play will give you an edge.
So if everyone's expecting you to fold and you have a strong read, you might just bluff.
You might bluff big.
Exactly. And as Ed says, conventional wisdom is a bluff waiting to be called.
Okay, I love that. So it's not about being randomly unpredictable. It's about being strategically unpredictable.
That's it.
All right, next up, Ed talks about risk is a feature, not a bug.
That's a good one.
This seemed to go against our natural instinct to avoid risk.
It does, but in poker, risk is unavoidable.
You can't win without taking some risks.
Exactly. And this razor is about reframing how we think about risk
So how do we apply this at the table?
by embracing calculated risks.
Okay, calculated being the key word.
Absolutely. It's not about gambling recklessly.
Right.
It's about weighing the potential upside against the downside.
So like calling a bet on a draw when the pot is huge.
It's a good example.
Or bluffing when you think your opponent is weak.
Exactly. And as Ed says, if you're not taking calculated risks, you're just waiting to be outplayed.
Yeah, you got to be willing to put some chips in the middle.
Could potentially win big.
Okay, disrupt or be disrupted is next. This sounds very Silicon Valley.
It does, and it's all about the need to adapt.
Adapt or die. Right.
Pretty much. In the tech world, if you don't innovate, someone else will.
And they'll take your market share.
Exactly.
So how does this apply to poker?
The poker landscape is always changing.
New strategies are emerging.
Players are adapting.
If you get stuck in your ways,
You become predictable.
and predictable players get exploited.
So disrupt or be disrupted means constantly evolving your strategy.
So if your usual plays aren't working,
Switch it up.
change your style.
Yeah. Tighten up, get more aggressive, keep your opponents guessing.
Okay, next up we have don't play the hand, play the player. This is a classic poker saying.
It is, and it's never been more relevant.
So what does it mean in the context of these action players?
It means poker is about people.
More than about the cards.
More than the cards.
So even if these guys seem chaotic,
They have patterns.
they have tells.
You just gotta look for them.
So pay attention to their betting,
Their body language.
their facial expressions.
Anything that gives you a clue.
Because as the saying goes...
Winning isn't about cards. It's about reading people.
Okay, on to moonshot thinking. So this sounds like it's about going for the big score,
It is. It's about being bold, taking calculated risks.
but not just blindly going all in.
No, it's about recognizing those high potential opportunities.
Those spots where a big play could really pay off.
Yeah, like a well-timed bluff.
Or a big value bet.
Exactly. As Ed says, big bets make big winners. If you never go all in, you'll never hit the jackpot.
So it's about having the guts to go for it.
When the situation is right.
When you have an edge,
Exactly. It's about recognizing those asymmetric opportunities.
where the potential reward is much bigger than the risk.
Okay, next up we have the poker singularity.
This one sounds a little sci-fi.
It does. It's about the rise of AI in poker.
So are robots going to take over the game?
Not necessarily. AI is a powerful tool.
It can teach us optimal strategies,
Help us understand the math.
but poker is still a game of people.
And people are unpredictable.
They're emotional.
AI can't fully account for that.
So what's the takeaway here?
Use AI to learn the fundamentals.
But trust your instincts at the table.
It's a balance.
Like Ed says, AI is changing poker, but instinct still beats algorithms.
All right, let's talk about master the meta. What's the meta in poker?
Yeah, what is that?
The meta is the prevailing style of play
The trends in the game.
at a particular time.
So is it about being aware of what everyone else is doing?
Exactly, and adapting accordingly.
So if everyone's playing aggressively,
You might tighten up.
pick your spots.
Be more patient.
So it's about understanding the bigger picture.
Yeah, the strategic landscape.
All right, skin in the game is next. This one seems pretty straightforward.
It is. It's about playing with real money.
So why is that so important?
Because when there's real money on the line,
The stakes are higher.
your focus is sharper.
You learn from your mistakes more effectively.
Like Ed says, your best poker lessons come from putting real money on the table.
Play money just doesn't have the same impact.
No, the consequences aren't real.
Okay, the next move is yours.
This one's about staying present
Not dwelling on the past.
or worrying about the future
So how do we do that?
by focusing on the decision at hand,
Letting go of bad beats.
not getting ahead of yourself.
Every hand is a new opportunity.
It's about making the best decision in the moment.
Like Ed says, the only move that matters is the one you make now.
Okay, next up is asymmetric bets. What are those?
Yeah, explain that.
Asymmetric bets are situations where the potential reward is much bigger than the risk.
So finding spots where you can risk a little to win a lot,
Exactly, like calling a bet on a big draw.
or bluffing when your opponent seems weak.
Yeah, those are good examples.
So it's about maximizing those opportunities.
Like Ed says, a small risk can create an outsized reward. Learn to spot those moments.
Okay? And finally, we have play to win, not to look smart.
This one's about keeping it simple,
Sticking to what works.
not getting too fancy.
So why do players sometimes overcomplicate things?
Maybe they want to impress their opponents.
Or they think they're smarter than they are.
But the reality is,
Solid strategy wins.
fundamentals are key.
Don't try to be a hero.
Like Ed says, fancy plays don't always win. Solid strategy does.
So there you have it, folks. Ed Reef's modern razors for poker.
Powerful tools.
They can help you adapt to this new, more aggressive game
And thrive.
and thrive.
So as you head back to the tables,
Think about which of these razors resonates with you.
which ones you can start using right away.
Because true mastery isn't just about knowing these concepts.
It's about applying them
In real games.
against real opponents.
So what are you waiting for? Go out there and sharpen your game.
Good luck out there.
And we'll see you at the tables.